Hi, my name is Rick Brimacombe, and on behalf of the Minneapolis Club and my firm, Brimacombe Capital, welcome to Club Entrepreneur. Today's session is Club E-commerce, buying and selling things online. Before we get to our speakers, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Olson Thielen CPAs, a full-service accounting firm. Irish Titan is a web development and e-commerce company. Highland Bank is a local family-owned community bank. McLeod & Company is a holistic marketing agency. And Winthrop and Weinstein is a general practice and business law firm. And the Network Connect is a catalytic gateway for connecting investors, companies, service providers, and job seekers. RSVPing to the extent that you can. A couple of you have learned the hard way. We shut down the online portion 24 hours in advance, so if you could get out to Brown paper ticket at least 24 hours in advance, that makes things run a little smoothly. Clube.com is the website. You can sign up for the newsletter there. We have a LinkedIn group you can connect up to that you can see the postcards on your table to point you towards that. There's also a meetup group, and I know we have at least one new member today off of the meetup group, so welcome folks who have not been here before. And last but not least, the Minneapolis Club has been a very generous supporter of Club Entrepreneur over the years. To the extent anybody would like to learn about the Minneapolis Club, please let me know. About a year ago or so, we started Business of the Month, and that was an idea of McLeod & Company, and Sam Stenders in the back waved everybody. Sam, thank you, Sam and McLeod, for doing Business of the Month. There's a fishbowl out on the table where you registered, and if you want to get signed up for the drawing for next month, put your card in that fishbowl as you walk out. Basically, we promote your business through the Club E social channels and other marketing that we do. So it's an opportunity to tell folks about your business. And today's Business of the Month is Armor Arts from Plymouth, and I have Jim Prom, co-founder, who is here today and is going to tell us what he does. Jim.
Hello everybody, Armor Arts is a new company. We make bulletproof artwork. So it's bulletproof protection that's hidden in plain sight. We have a website, armorarts.com.
ArmorArts.com is the website. Thanks, Jim. And if you'd like to learn more about Armor Arts, please seek Jim out after the event. So thanks, Jim, for attending and supporting Club Entrepreneur. Future events, Club E St. Paul is next week, January 16th. Why is neuromarketing disrupting the advertising world? Chum Struve's right here in the middle of the room. She runs the St. Paul group. January 29th, we're back here for Grow Revenue and Increase Profit. And then back here again on February 7th for Is Your Business Healthy? It's kind of a financial assessment on trying to determine how healthy your business is. So that gets to today's fireside chat, Club E-commerce, buying and selling things online. I have Darren Lynch of Irish Titan and Will Turnland of Goat Consulting. Offline here, you can ask Will about the Goat Consulting story, which I heard earlier, but for the sake of time, we'll skip that one. Why don't we take about a minute each, you guys, and tell us a little bit about your background.
So I graduated from University of Minnesota Duluth in around 2013, and I was trying to decide what I was going to do. I knew that I kind of wanted to do something involved with e-commerce, had been buying stuff and selling stuff on Amazon kind of here and there, and at the same time, my brother, who's here today, offered the opportunity to work at my family's 80-year-old manufacturing company to convert it from a B2B to B2C company. So now we did that for a few years. My brother still runs that, and that's going very successful. And from the exposure I've gotten from the media of us being so successful on that end, lots of brands and manufacturers started asking me, how can you do that for our company? And that's how Goat Consulting was born. So today, Goat Consulting helps brands and manufacturers sell more products on Amazon. And I've been doing that and running Goat Consulting now for a little over 2.5 years.
And Will was the speaker last December of 2017, so a year ago in a month, and he added so much value to the audience. I heard such good feedback that I wanted to bring him back, and then I do try to do a little bit, some kind of retail, shopping, buying thing around the holidays because everybody's been doing that. And so that's the tie-in with this time of year. And again, if you recognize Will, it's because he was here a little over a year ago. So welcome back, Will. And then Darren Lynch and Irish Titan have been sponsors of Club E for a long, long time. And I've had an opportunity to work with those folks on a number of occasions for various projects and portfolio companies. And then Darren has also spoken here before, so welcome back, Darren, and tell us a little bit about your background.
I'll try without the microphone first. Shane, can you hear me okay? James, can you hear me okay over there? All right. So I've never been accused of being quiet, so we'll make this easy. So I'm the founder and CEO of Irish Titan. It's not an Irish Titan commercial unless there are prospects in here, then it is. But we're an e-commerce agency, so we build and then market e-commerce sites. I've been in this space for a long time now, probably old enough to be Will's dad without a lot of scandal. And so I worked backwards, going backwards, I came out of more of a retail background and corporate IT sort of background. I was CIO at Second Swing Golf, including running all the digital with P&L. Before that at Wilson's Leather, where I implemented e-commerce for their first time. And then before that, Lawson Software Consulting, where I started getting into the web, etc. So been in this space a long, long time. We have 37, I think is the number, employees. We call them Titans. And in-house, we have creative, marketing, and technology. So we're building sites for our clients and then working with them on an ongoing basis. And that covers a lot of ground. So we see a lot of different perspectives from clients, different industries of different size with different strategies.
Great, thank you very much. So why don't you guys each take a couple minutes to talk about today's topic and kind of just share your overall perspectives, and then we'll drill down into some questions. Either one. Will, go ahead.
So I'm going to be talking about obviously selling on Amazon today. To some people, Amazon can be seen as kind of the big bad monster in the room, or the company you don't really want to team up with because they're ruthless and don't care about you. Where there is some truth to that, there's still a lot of opportunity to sell on Amazon. They attract a lot of eyeballs that have open wallets and are ready to purchase. And so if you are selling a physical product and you don't have some sort of Amazon strategy for the next 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, I'm here to kind of convince you that there's some sort of business model or some sort of way to use Amazon to your company's benefit, and that you should have some sort of idea of kind of how you're going to handle the Amazon monster in the near future.
Like I mentioned, I've been in this space for a long time. So when I started, Amazon was a place to buy books, right? And that was really it. And now, I just got back from an e-commerce conference last night in LA. It wasn't very fun getting off the plane in the weather, but one of the guys out there talked about how he was driving through, I think he said Kansas, and his car broke down in a small town, and the auto repair place there was going to charge him something like $600 to fix his radiator. One of the other guys said you should have just put an egg in there and fried it and it would have fixed it, which I don't know if that's true, but never mind. But what he ended up doing was ordering a radiator off of Amazon. They got there the next day and it was much cheaper, right? And so that's how far we've come since, I think 2001 was the first time that I really started to get into e-commerce. And so it's changed from really e-commerce being very limited in general to having B2C models, B2B models, Amazon only, non-Amazon only, a mix of the two. And we're in a state that really has done much more e-commerce than we really are aware of, and we should be more proud of that. We have companies like Mary's Chocolate Celeste right there selling online. We have companies like Woodchuck these are small boutique local e-commerce companies. We of course have Target and Best Buy, who have done really good jobs with their multi-channel e-commerce. People talk about retail apocalypse and how retail chains are going out of business. The ones that are going out of business are the ones that haven't invested in their multi-channel strategy. We have two in town that have done a great job. We have a lot of B2B opportunity here, which is oftentimes overlooked. And e-commerce also includes subscription-based models. So access to content or expertise or relevant information and experts. That also starts to fall under e-commerce if you're charging X dollars a month for access to that information. So there's a lot that we've experienced over the last 20 years and a lot that we as a region should really be promoting.
Great. So Darren, let's stick with you for a moment. So digital's at the intersection of marketing, technology, and creative. How does the notion of e-commerce fit into that?
Yeah, one of the things that I think prompted me to go into this space before I was even really an industry was that notion that digital and websites are at the intersection of three disciplines that I like a lot and that are hard to define: technology, creative, and marketing. And so, you know, if you build a website, you can measure how many people are going there, how long they're staying there, where they go, et cetera. So that's that intersection of those three disciplines. Then if you layer e-commerce over that, it turns interesting observations and business decisions that you make from more of a marketing perspective into income statements and balance sheets kind of thought, right? Because if you have a business that lends itself to it, you can be using e-commerce to increase revenue, to increase profits, to drive other channels awareness and activity. And so that e-commerce layer over digital is something that always attracted me. Since I started Irish Titan 14 years ago, we've had a focus on e-commerce and been growing that focus. About 80% of our business now is e-commerce related. And that's where, those of you who've heard me speak before, I talk a lot about business first, online second. And that's how e-commerce really manifests itself.
Great, thank you. So I have a list of questions. I'm going to go through these, but at future point in time here in our conversation, if there's something that you'd like to chime in on, please raise your hand and I'll try to work you into the conversation. Will, sometimes for folks selling, Amazon can seem a little intimidating. How does the actual operational side of things on Amazon work?
So one of the reasons why Amazon is where it's at today is because they make it so easy. They had that kind of idea that they were going to take the pain points out of e-commerce, and that way they're going to be able to get as many third-party sellers as possible, and then eventually someday down the line they can work down the list and start sourcing all those SKUs themselves and sell them themselves. So the whole plan was to make it as easy as possible for Amazon. So if you're not very tech savvy, you could still take a product, open up a pro seller account for $40 on Amazon. You could put that product on Amazon, send it into Amazon's fulfillment center in under an hour, and then it would show up in stock on Amazon's website Prime a week later or so. And so they make it impossibly easy. They knew that if they could drive all the sellers to one place, since they handle the fulfillment and the storage of your products, that with all the sellers going to the one marketplace, that they'd eventually compete with each other also on price. And so Amazon has a buy box algorithm that if multiple people try to sell the same exact product, Amazon allows the seller with the lowest price to get the buy box and receive the sale. And so with them driving all these different sellers, they all compete with each other on price. It's kind of the perfect marketplace for that from the Amazon's point of view, because the customers get products very quickly at the cheapest price possible. And at the end of the day, Amazon gets to keep all the data themselves and gets to make very strategic decisions on, okay, is it worth sourcing this product? What's the return rate? What's the conversion rate? What's the average star rating? What can we do to improve that star rating? And so Amazon can work from the very top of the list. So it's people, when they sell on Amazon, are afraid that Amazon might come out with like an Amazon Basics version of their product or start their own brand that's very similar to their own brand. But for the most part, from what I've seen, Amazon usually targets industries where someone is not providing a good product at a good price, and Amazon knows that it's not that difficult to do. If a quick example is your phone chargers. You used to be able to buy phone chargers on Amazon, no problem, for 50 cents, $1, $2, but you also knew that they were going to break down within the first few weeks of using because they weren't official, they weren't certified. Now Amazon Basics kind of owns the whole charger market, and people don't really mind it since they know that the Amazon Basics charger is going to work great with your phone. It's slightly more expensive, but people don't mind spending the extra money if they trust the product that much more. And so that's kind of the overarching thing, is get as many SKUs on the marketplace as possible. Start from the top of the list and work your way down. And if you don't have to spend your own cash to source and stock those SKUs, then perfect.
All right, great. So you both have been doing the digital world here for a while. What was kind of your aha moment that caused you to be interested in the web and e-commerce? And did something happen in your background that said, all right, I want to go do this?
Yeah, I would say early 2006, 2007, my brother started selling online, which made me kind of open up my mind in the first place that you could buy products and sell them online, and that it actually you didn't have a warehouse and a forklift and all this kind of stuff to do it. And then from there, the first kind of times I've sold on Amazon, and I listed a product, hit refresh 10 minutes later, and it's already sold out. It's kind of the aha moment I needed, that, oh, wow, this traffic is real, this traffic is hungry, and they just need more products to buy.
I think I had more of a series of aha moments. Again, a little bit older. In '95, so my first job out of college was at Principal Financial Group in Des Moines. And I remember in 1995, I'm a giant KISS fan. I think we all are. Some people don't know it, right?
Or they don't want to admit it.
Or they don't want to admit it. Right? I'll readily admit it. I kind of have to. I've seen him 28 times in concert. But in '95, I came across it, and that was pretty early, right, with websites. And I came across this KISS website, KISS Otaku, which is a Japanese term for fanatics. And so that's when I started to think, hey, this is going to be obviously a pretty big trend with web and digital. And so and I was in a technology space. So that's when I first started to wrap my head around the opportunity. Then I think it was in 98 or 99, I was working for Lawson Software Consulting Company up here. People remember Lawson? And a couple of us were out at OfficeMax, headquartered in Cleveland, implementing their ERP system and doing a bunch of integrations there. There was another team there building OfficeMax's e-commerce property way back then, right, 22 years ago. And I started to think, well, this is going to be giant, because even back then I was like, why do I have to go to a store to buy paper and printer cartridges? And so that's when e-commerce to me really became pretty fascinating. Then I started Irish Titan after Second Swing folded down in its previous incarnation. I mean, it's still around, but at one point we had, I think it was 84 stores, and then we closed down. And I've been responsible for all the digital property, the P&L. And when we still suffered as a business as a whole, even though our e-commerce property and digital property was doing really well, that's what sort of pushed me over the edge to start my own company, because I thought that I knew how to capitalize on opportunity in that digital space with Business First, Online Second, e-commerce, and building the right kind of solutions for clients. So those, I think, are the three aha moments that I had.
Great, thank you. Holiday season just ended. Again, that's what part of why Will was here a year or so ago. I know it's a little early for numbers and stuff. They're not out necessarily, or some estimates are, but any thoughts on kind of the holiday online shopping season, e-commerce, what you observe, things you've heard, seen?
Yeah, I'll go first and then hand it over to you. And the only reason I have this green cover iPad is to reference a few stats, because I wanted to make sure to get that right. I'm guessing, as everybody would surmise, the e-commerce this year was bigger than the year before, right? Because that continues to grow for all of us. I remember, no offense to Best Buy, if there's anybody here from Best Buy, but I remember being at Best Buy probably 8-9 years ago, standing in line, getting pissed, leaving, and going home and ordering everything online and having a much better experience. And so I think that has grown for all of us. And e-commerce was up, 16.7% this year compared to last year. Now, the thing to note, though, is that rate of growth is slowing. It's still growing, but slowing. The Cyber Monday is still really big, of course, but what's interesting about that is the growth of Cyber Monday, specifically Cyber Monday, is also slowing, because one of the whole benefits of buying online is doing it whenever and wherever you want. So why does that have to be on Monday, right? That's pretty counterintuitive, and people are starting to figure that out. And so I think that those are some interesting e-commerce stats. And additionally, again, just to reiterate, they talk about this retail apocalypse. Well, those who have invested in their multi-channel strategies, buying online, picking up in store, going to store, if it's not there, having it delivered through the online channel, those companies are doing really, really well. And there were more retail stores opened in 2018 than closed. Even though there's all this talk about retail apocalypse, it's just changing, right? So that's my take.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback a little bit off what Darren said. And one of the big kind of realizations we saw this last holiday season is that not that many people really like shopping on Cyber Monday or Black Friday. A lot of people were doing their Christmas shopping like the first week of October, last week of September, it seemed like. And then also a lot of last minute buying. The last week before Christmas where people, there's a little button on Amazon that says guaranteed that they'll arrive before Christmas. That seems to be kind of the two times where people are spending the most money. And so as our clients want to slash prices for Cyber Monday, all we kind of do is explain to them that they're cannibalizing future sales for this discounted price. If someone's going to buy your robotic vacuum, they're going to buy your robotic vacuum. They're not going to buy it because it's 30% off this specific day. It doesn't seem, and so you're getting a bunch of sales volume, a lot of units out the door in one day, but you're sacrificing your margin, and a lot of these customers are going to buy your product regardless. So I'm not a big believer in the whole slash of prices, Cyber Monday kind of thing, and the statistics are slowly kind of showing my point of view that, hey, it's not that cool buying in one day. Don't buy everything on one day just because it's on sale. Spread your sales out a little bit more, make them a little less deeper, and make sure that you're not just trying to cram all your sales in one day just for the sake of it, just because your competition is.
All right. Shifting gears a little bit, let's compare and contrast Amazon versus kind of a standalone e-commerce website. So what's the purpose of Amazon, big picture, and why do people shop there versus the standalone e-commerce websites?
So people tend to shop on Amazon because it's easy. They have their stuff saved on there, all their information, their credit card information. They can do one-click checkout. They can assume that they're going to get a fair price and that Amazon has most everything they're looking for. Where e-commerce comes into play, in my point of view, is in the branding experience, is telling the story of your brand, why your brand is different, why your brand is special, and why they should be specifically buying from you. Some people trust buying from the brand's e-commerce website more than buying from Amazon or buying from some marketplace, which is understandable, but it seems like for the most part, nowadays, you shouldn't be as focused on maybe conversion as much on your e-commerce website and more about branding and telling your story, where someone wants to look up your brand, feel good about it, and then they might copy and paste the name of the product into Amazon and click buy now. And so that is kind of my point of view. I'm assuming Darren's totally different than me, but
Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. No, it's fine. Yeah, actually, I agree with Will. Amazon's really about convenience, price, and experience. And then information, I would actually also say. Because I frequently go to Amazon to look at comparison or product reviews, similar products, and that information, sort of a comparison shopping experience, even if I'm not going to buy on Amazon, because there's so much information out there. The experience that Amazon has created and driven has been, I think, very impactful to either B2C, but even more so to B2B opportunities. Will's right. Like Amazon is very price friendly. It's easy to buy. We do it all the time, right? Like you just go and you buy something with the one click, and it's here in the next day or within a couple of days. That's really, really easy. Where you start to, I think, differentiate from that is in the brand. I think brand is the way to summarize all of the different reasons that you would care about your own site versus Amazon. And in fact, that's one of the reasons that one of the ways in the industry people refer to non-Amazon e-commerce sites as quote-unquote branded sites, because you really have access to almost, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but access to almost no customer information with what you sell on Amazon. When you sell on your site, you have access to all their information, right? That rolls up to your brand in theory, or it can, if you capitalize on it, because that means that then you can market to them, you can survey them, you can take care of them in a much more high-touch way because you know who they are, right? If you care about your brand, that tends to lend weight to the argument that you should invest some, and maybe more and more and more over time, to your own branded site, because you can, in general, capture more margin there, customer retention, all of those sorts of things that are part of your business model lend themselves to Amazon if you care about that. If you don't spend the time on it. And it also depends on your product, right? If you need to have the right kind of margin on your product to again, you chime in here if I go off the rails a little bit, but to handle Amazon with their commission and some of the fees, and really, I think on Amazon, you're expected to provide free shipping, which has bled into the branded sites. So you have to have a product that can support that. And if you have a product that can support that and you care about the brand, then that starts to also add weight to the argument of building your own branded site.
Yeah, a couple of things to add on top of that. Darren's 100% right about you do not get any of your customers' information. There's a bunch of gray hat ways to get them, but they're gray hat for a reason. So that's to that. And the last thing I'd like to say is about kind of the e-commerce website. I always compare it to the brick and mortar store experience a little bit more, where if you're going scuba diving for the first time in the Caribbean and you're trying to find all the different regulators and tanks and stuff you need on Amazon, good luck. You're going to have no idea what equipment you need, if it's all going to work together or anything like that. But if you went to CaribbeanScuba.com and you're able to get on the phone with a customer support person who's knowledgeable, can tell you, oh yeah, I've been scuba diving exactly in that reef. I use this face mask, but my husband used this one, so he has a slightly bigger head, so if you have a bigger head, use this one. And all of those kind of customer touch points and places where you can add value, where Amazon's never going to be able to add value in that kind of way.
All right. What about selling on Amazon and your own branded site?
That's what we kind of recommend for everyone. You should always have some way to collect customers' information, pixel them, grab their email address. The website's a great way to do it. Amazon's is an easy way to get your product in front of a ton of people who have their wallets open, ready to buy right now. And so I always recommend, obviously, having your products on Amazon. But with, if you can figure it out correctly, and since you ship stuff through Amazon and Amazon's freight bill, the freight and shipping can actually be pretty cheap on Amazon, cheaper than you might be able to get yourself. And so we've set up in the past where you actually have your products all at Amazon's fulfillment center, and whenever anybody buys on your e-commerce website, Amazon automatically fulfills it. And so that way you can kind of get the best of both worlds without having to have a warehouse and a shipping team. You can kind of do two things at once.
I would echo most of that. We have clients that sell on both platforms. I don't think we have any clients that sell on just Amazon. We have clients that sell on both, and we have clients that skew heavily towards their own branded site for those reasons I mentioned earlier. So it's a strategy, right? Like if you have access to an existing customer base and you have strong margins and you have an effective marketing team and you have some evergreen content and reputation you can leverage, then that can diminish how much you need to use Amazon. If you don't have those things, then Amazon is a good tool to use until you have those things. So most of our clients sell on both.
Yeah, if a business told me they're 90% e-commerce, 10% Amazon, I would see them as a healthier business than a business that said they're 10% their own e-commerce website, 90% Amazon.
Okay, great, thank you.
Unless perhaps they're truly a commodity.
Yeah, unique circumstances here and there, but for the most part, if you own your customers' data, you own the experience, everything like that, that's better than outsourcing it to the whatever second or first biggest company in the world.
What's happening today that is an important part of the online buying experience that was not around just a couple of years ago?
I think same-day shipping is kind of the big revolution that I've seen, where all the time we're buying stuff at our office, Amazon Prime Now app, and getting it in 1 hour, 2 hours, getting printer ink, paper, that kind of thing, where we don't have to interrupt our day. I know even my aunt was looking for a webcam because she's a pastor at a church and needed to do like a web conference. She's at my parents' house up in the northern suburbs, and it's like, oh yeah, it's in an hour and a half. Okay, well, pay an extra $7. You can get this webcam dropped off in an hour, and you get 6 different webcams to choose from. This is something that was like unheard of in e-commerce even 3-4 years ago, and now it's becoming slowly kind of very regular and normal.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I would mention too. Free shipping in particular, I think, is basically expected now, and Amazon's really driven that. And so that's one thing. And we think about over the course of the last couple of years, the way I would summarize the most important or maybe most notable changes and steps forward have really been in experience, right? So Chipotle or Caribou, you used to have to go stand in line, and now you can use the app and order ahead of time, right? That's like an experience piece. The packaging and experience you have sometimes when you receive your product and you open it, either a branded box or like a nice message that is a little bit more brand intensive. That's really increased over the last few years. Returns, right? That's something that I think has improved a lot over the last few years. Not just their willingness to take a return, but how you do a return. On Amazon, it's crazy easy. My ex-wife, who we're super amicable, she works for Amazon. She's actually never even returned anything. My daughter's bought her, well, I bought her some headphones for Christmas that didn't work, and so she asked how to return them. I said, you don't even know? Because she works for them, and it's just like one button, and then you show your code at the postal dispatch place that I go to, right? I buy some shirts from an online retailer called Untuck It. If the shirts don't fit quite right, you start the return process with a button, and it goes to this Returnly, which is another company making a ton of money doing returns for other people. And it's a super easy process. It's all about that experience. That's, I think, the thing that's really improved over the last few years in many different respects.
Great. So what's the most common mistake you see companies making kind of today, here and now, in their e-commerce activities?
They don't focus on a couple of things. One, copy and content is almost always overlooked and oversimplified. At the beginning of one of our projects, clients will say, we'll take care of the copy, and we're like, yeah, right. Because most people aren't good at writing copy, or that's what they do for a living. And the thing that's important about copy and content is really that is the foundation and the fuel for your marketing efforts online. Whether it's B2B, or whether it's e-commerce or not, whether you're just trying to be a thought leader, or if you're trying to sell products, no matter what it is, that copy and content is your fuel. And that can be the product images, the descriptions, the white papers, the rich content, the video, audio, all of that stuff is the fuel for what you're going to do online, and people constantly oversimplify that. I think, secondly, then I'll wrap up, is I think people expect to get rich quick, right, online, because you read the stories, you hear the stories, you read them on Medium, you listen to it on a podcast, and for every one of those, there are thousands that don't work out like that. Like, you shouldn't launch an e-commerce site and expect to make money next month. You don't make money next month, you make it next year. And you don't make really very much money for a few years. That's what you should plan on. And I think people expect too much too quickly because it seems so easy.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest mistakes I see over and over again is that they try to treat e-commerce like it's traditional retail. And they think like kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, they think they need to be on sale all the time. And that they go, well, we did a sale last week and look how many more units we sold. And we go, well, yes, we know at all times that if we lower the price, more customers will buy it. It's a kind of a simple supply and demand curve. But let's not do it that way, because there's plenty of people selling the same thing as your product with basically no branding online somewhere or another that's half your price. And if you keep reducing your price to increase your sales, then eventually your brand is worthless and you're just like another commodity out there. And you built your brand up over years, if not decades, so you could command that high price because people trust your brand. And so keeping your price high is something that we're constantly having to explain to people that, yes, I get that Walmart and Target and other marketplaces you may sell to want you to constantly discount your products because they say, look at your sales numbers afterwards. But at the same time, if you're destroying your brand while you're doing it, then what's the point?
So kind of jumping around a little bit, but Darren, talk at a high level, don't have to get into the weeds on it, but the cost of building e-commerce websites, and then will the follow-up to that would be, hey, what's marketing budgets on selling on Amazon? So let's tackle that.
Yeah, I get asked a lot, well, how much is it going to cost, right? And depending on the conversation, one of my standard responses is, well, how much does a red car cost? Because until you have more context, you can't really estimate it, right? And sometimes people say, hey, build my site to look like Amazon, or excuse me, to look like Apple and sell like Amazon, and I'm going to be making green leather top hats. How much is that going to cost? You have to dig around on that. So it can be a broad answer and a broad journey to figure out those sorts of data points. Generally, I mean, a site can legitimately and reasonably cost somewhere between $1,000, $10,000, $100,000, or $1 million. And that sounds like a broad range, and it is, but there are reasons for that. If you spin up a simple e-commerce site selling one and only one product with very few SKU variations, you don't have a lot of bells and whistles, you can spin up your own site on something like Shopify, or have a friend help you with that. And that might be the place to start. If you start to have more products, more complexity, that'd be like the $1,000 option. If you start to have more products and you're still kind of doing it yourself and trying to build your presence, that's probably like a $10,000 site. You start to get to $100,000 sites and $1 million sites when you have either hundreds of thousands of SKUs, you have integration between your e-commerce site and an ERP system or a CRM system or a fulfillment system. You're selling internationally maybe. You have multiple sites. Maybe you have a high-end site and a clearance site. They're totally different brands, but running off the same product information. Those are the sorts of things that start to push you towards those higher dollar amounts. And so I'm not trying to dodge the question. I'm just trying to provide some context for what each of those ranges might look like.
Yeah, for Amazon, as Darren kind of alluded to earlier, you pay all sorts of fees. That's usually kind of one of the first things that we work with our clients is like, how much fees are we actually going to be spending here? Because it's kind of difficult in the beginning if you have no idea all the different fees that Amazon's going to charge. But basically it comes down to just a few fees if you really think about it. There's a fee that Amazon charges that's somewhere around like 14%, I think. That's like the privilege of using Amazon's traffic. And so you just pay that no matter what. And then kind of depending on the category you're selling on, and then the rest are picking and packing and fulfillment fees. And the picking and packing fulfillment fees are actually fairly reasonable a lot of times compared to if you ship the product yourself. Now, if you're selling a product that's under £1 and you can send it like first class for $2-3 USPS, then the fulfillment fees are going to be a lot more than you're used to. But if you're selling something that's in like a 3-foot by 3-foot by 3-foot box, most likely sending the products to Amazon's fulfillment center and then sending it to the customer is going to be cheaper than you sending it to the customer yourself. Amazon has very cheap shipping rates. And so besides that, I kind of give customers, usually our clients, a range of about 20 to 30% of the retail price will be spent on Amazon fees. And so if you're not willing to do that, or if it doesn't fit in your margin from there, then it's probably not a good way to do it. And the last thing I'll add is that if you have Amazon do the fulfillment for your company, but you did the purchase was actually made on your own website, you don't pay that actual 14% fee anymore, and you just pay the picking and packing fulfillment fee. So it becomes a lot more reasonable if you do it that way.
All right, so if we get out our crystal ball and we look into 2019 and then out a couple of years from now, what does Amazon look like and what's happening there? And then for e-commerce, branded e-commerce sites, non-Amazon, what's going on there? So again, we got the crystal ball, we're looking out in the future, what's happening?
So Amazon's going to be coming out with more and more brands. They trademarked something like 60 different brand names last year, and I think that there's a lot of different things, like they sell like button-up like dress shirts that they don't want to sell under the Amazon Basic brand, but they come up with some kind of cheeky brand name that makes more sense, and people don't realize they're even buying it from Amazon themselves. So I see in the near future Amazon trying to kind of weed out all the riffraff, getting rid of a lot of the Chinese sellers who are selling direct and selling kind of scammy products, and kind of cutting down the amount of people who sell on Amazon in general. I think there's 3 million, last I checked, 3 million third-party sellers on Amazon, and they don't need that many. They could do just as good with 100,000 that they really trust. You have good products at good prices. So I think there's going to be a thinning of the herd in the near future, and that the cream is going to rise to the top, hopefully.
I think that in some ways, Amazon will continue to do what they've been doing as a disruptive force. And I mean that as a compliment, right? Like, Amazon's been great. They've driven a lot of change. They've introduced better pricing to a lot of products. They've helped us all get product faster than we would have otherwise, made it easier for those of us who don't plan that well to get birthday and Christmas presents quickly, etc. So they'll continue to be disruptive in that sense, and I think that's a good thing. I tend to be a little bit cynical about giant entities, government or corporation, and I think that Amazon is going to begin to face some of the populist backlash that's starting to roll around some of the tech companies. They don't have some of the privacy issues that Facebook does, but they received some backlash for how their HQ2, their headquarters 2, selection process went. I also know, and I'm sure you've read about this, because I've read this last couple of days, they have so much access to so much information, not just about what we buy, but what we look at. And how long, so when I talked earlier about comparison shopping, when I go to Amazon, to look at the reviews for a book or a telephone case like I bought for my daughter, and I liked the company and their branding, so I went and bought off the company's branded site just because I thought I'd help them out a little bit. When you do that, they get that information. And there's talk of them using AI, artificial intelligence, to then start to market to us the products we're looking at that are their branded products, right? And with some of the current sentiment around privacy and Big Brother and AI and some of that stuff, I think if they go too far down that path, they'll probably start to catch some heat. And they won't be the only ones, because I think that's more pervasive across a whole bunch of companies. But I think that is something that they'll probably have to navigate.
To add on top of that, I know from talking to people who work within Amazon, Amazon already has the Pixel technology that Facebook has, but they only use it internally. So as long as you're signed into your Amazon account, they're following you all around the web, every page you go to. And so I think some of that backlash might come when they open up that Pixel to third-party marketers like myself, because they know they can trust Amazon to do it and they can kind of follow the guidelines. But the second they let greedy marketers with the Pixel, they're going to do every single thing they can to stretch the rules to the limits in every direction possible. And that's when the backlash is going to come, when they find out that, just like Facebook with Cambria Analytica, them taking a lot more information than they first said they were doing and putting it on their own servers, the same thing's going to happen the first time they open up the Pixel. There's going to be some data farm there who goes on every page, pixels every customer, puts it all in a database, and is selling the information that Amazon used to hold tightly to its heart.
Rebecca.
Yeah, so in terms of future trends around free shipping, price pressure on better prices on products and the assumption that everyone gets free shipping, is the free shipping model really sustainable with enough margin?
So if you couldn't hear it over here, the question was about free shipping. How does that work in business models in the future? Is it sustainable? What's the kind of future trends with free shipping?
Yeah, I don't see it going anywhere. I see that it just, the rich get richer. The people who have more margin because they're buying at bigger scale are able to afford free shipping, where if you're a startup with one employee and you're sitting there shipping stuff out of a garage, yeah, free shipping's going to be tough, but you might have to take some venture funding in the meantime while you lose money sending free shipping trying to scale. But yeah, I don't think free shipping's going anywhere.
I agree. It's here to stay.
Eric, is it a quick question?
Yeah, what's going to happen with Sears is imploding, so some of the brands like appliances and other scalables, I know they sold Craftsman, but do you see Amazon starting to buy branded product that they either keep the original branding for or co-brand with their names, and kind of kicking out some of the other people that are in the market?
Okay, so if you didn't hear that over here, is with Sears imploding, does Amazon be more aggressive as a strategic buyer of those brands or anybody else's brands?
Yeah, they bought Ring last year for like $1 billion or so, and it would be smart for Amazon if they would have a year or so ago bought like Fila or Champion or one of those kind of brands up that's slowly becoming cool again. All these kind of legacy brands that everyone knows the name of, but they just haven't been around for a while, those should all be ripe for Amazon acquisition, because if Amazon can buy their goodwill that they've built over the last few decades and kind of sell behind their facade of a cool brand, that's kind of best case scenario for Amazon.
Okay, so we're bumping up on our time. We have the room. As long as anybody would like to stay, please do. The guys will hang around as long as folks want to talk to them. But to wrap it up, 30 seconds, closing thoughts, any kind of nuggets, tidbits you want to leave with the audience?
Yeah, last tidbits is, if you have any questions about Amazon, even if you sell non-physical products or anything, for sure ask me. I can guide you a lot better than Google can if it's a good idea, if it's not a good idea. For most all businesses, there's some way to incorporate Amazon into it, and it's worth a decent thought about.
Yeah, I think we covered a lot of ground here. I think Will obviously has a lot of in-depth knowledge around Amazon specifically. The only thing I'll add that I had in my notes to bring up if it came up is the concept of marketplaces, because Amazon's a marketplace, and so is Walmart.com, so is Autotrader.com, so is Etsy. So these big e-commerce platforms that many of us have heard of are places where any one of us can be placing product or services, kind of artisan sort of stuff frequently. Those are going to grow dramatically. By 2023, 1 in 5 e-commerce sites themselves is expected to be a marketplace site, and over half of e-commerce revenue is expected to come from those sites. So marketplace, whether it's Amazon still, because Amazon right now seems like this unstoppable beast. Well, they once said that about Sears. And so whether it's Amazon, they'll still be around in 5 years, I'm guessing. Or somebody else, this concept of marketplaces is something to pay attention to.
Okay, January 16th, next week in St. Paul, Rise Neuromarketing Disrupting the Advertising World. January 29th, right here, Grow Revenue and Increase Profit. February 7th, right here, Is Your Business Healthy? Thank you, panelists, and let's give them a round of applause.